Friends, I was thinking the other day that America resembles the Titanic post-iceberg collision. With an air of unwavering confidence, individuals are standing upon the deck, convinced of the unsinkability of their vessel, even as it descends into the depths, ultimately leading to their collective demise. As uncomfortable as it may be to acknowledge, our nation is in a state of decline. We've collided with that metaphorical iceberg, leaving a gash too significant to mend and damage too extensive to rectify. Regrettably, this sad state leaves us with no salvaging this sinking ship. Fact is, conditions are bound to deteriorate even further. The issue that we have not long neglected is the inherent corruption and unsustainability of the social system that we have operated within for decade upon decade. The socioeconomic distress plaguing our nation stems from a political system compromised by Wall Street interests. The grim reality we face is the deliberate erosion of the working class, which lies at the very heart of our predicament. Politicians from both major political parties have consistently placed a premium on neoliberal economics, prioritizing the interest of corporations and profits over the social and economic well-being of the citizens. This alignment with corporate agendas has led to policies that exacerbate inequality, weaken labor protections, and hollow out vital social safety nets. Instead of fostering an environment that supports and uplifts all members of society, these politicians have perpetrated a system that disproportionately benefits the wealthy elite while leaving the working class to bear the brunt of economic hardships. Under the guise of promoting free market principles and economic growth, these politicians have facilitated the erosion of regulations designed to safeguard workers' rights, environmental protections, and financial stability. This deregulatory fervor has enabled corporate entities to amass unprecedented power and influence, almost often at the expense of workers' rights, consumer protections, and environmental sustainability. Further, the symbiotic relationship between politicians and corporate interests has resulted in a revolving door between government and the private sector, where former policymakers often transition into lucrative positions within corporate boardrooms or lobbying firms. This revolving door further entrenches the influence of corporate interest in the political process, effectively sidelining the voices and concerns of ordinary citizens. As a result, the social contract that once underpinned American society has been frayed, if not outright broken. Instead of fostering a society that prioritizes the common good and ensures equal opportunity for all, our political system has become increasingly beholden to the interests of powerful corporations and the wealthy elite. This betrayal of public trust has deepened the socioeconomic divides within our nation and exacerbated the suffering of those most vulnerable in our society. The neoliberal ideology embraced by politicians has directly contributed to the socioeconomic injustices that plague our nation, leading to a myriad of devastating consequences, including homelessness, despair, poverty, lack of access to healthcare, decreased life expectancy, and a sense of desperation that drives individuals towards extreme political choices, such as supporting authoritarian figures like Donald Trump. Neoliberal policies have prioritized deregulation and privatization, dismantling social safety nets and exacerbating income inequality. As a result, millions of Americans find themselves trapped in cycles of poverty and economic precarity, struggling to afford basic necessities like housing, food, and healthcare. The erosion of labor protections and the decline of unionization have further weakened the bargaining power of workers, leaving them vulnerable to exploitation and stagnant wages. The consequences of neoliberalism are perhaps most starkly evident in the homelessness crisis gripping many cities across our nation. As housing costs soar and affordable housing options dwindle, more and more individuals and families find themselves without a stable place to call home. The lack of affordable housing is not simply a result of market forces, but is also a consequence of policies that prioritize profit over human needs, allowing real estate speculation to drive up prices and push out low-income residents. Moreover, the inaccessibility of healthcare has become a glaring issue, with millions of Americans unable to afford essential medical services or medication. This privatization of healthcare has prioritized profits over public health, leaving millions uninsured or underinsured and vulnerable to financial ruin in the event of an illness or injury. These many socioeconomic injustices have created a pervasive sense of despair and hopelessness among many Americans, particularly those in marginalized communities. When people feel abandoned by the political establishment and left behind by the economic system, they may turn to populist leaders who promise simple solutions and scapegoats for their problems. Donald Trump's brand of authoritarian populism capitalized on this sense of frustration and disillusionment, offering false promises of restoring prosperity and returning America to a mythical past. In reality, Trump's policies only serve to exacerbate the underlying issues of inequality and injustice, once again further enriching the wealthy elite at the expense of the most vulnerable members of our society. However, his appeal to the grievances of disaffected voters highlights the depths of desperation that many Americans feel in the face of political and economic systems that have failed them. To address these systemic injustices and prevent the rise of authoritarian figures like Trump in the future, we must reject the neoliberal paradigm that prioritizes corporate profits over human dignity and pursue policies that promote equity, justice, and shared prosperity for all. This requires challenging entrenched power structures, investing in social welfare programs, strengthening labor rights, and rebuilding a sense of solidarity and community that transcends divisions of race, class, and geography. Only then can we truly begin to heal the deep wounds of inequality and despair that afflict our nation. But most importantly, it is imperative that we hold politicians accountable for their actions and demand meaningful policies that prioritize the well being of the working class and marginalized communities. This requires a seismic shift towards progressive politics, a shift that challenges the entrenched interests that have corrupted the Democratic Party and undermined its ability to effectively represent the needs of the people. For too long, politicians have taken for granted the support of voters, relying on party loyalty and empty promises rather than delivering tangible results. Friends, it is time to break free from this cycle of complacency and demand real change. We must make it damn clear that our votes cannot be taken for granted, and that politicians must damn well earn our support through their actions and their policies. This means withholding our votes until politicians demonstrate a genuine commitment to addressing the root causes of inequality and injustice. No longer can we afford to simply vote for the lesser of two evils or settle for politicians who prioritize the interests of corporate lobbyists over the needs of the people. We need a wave of progressive politics that champions bold ideas and transformative policies aimed at uplifting the most vulnerable members of our society. This includes measures such as Medicare for All, a Green New Deal, a living wage, and criminal justice reform. And these are not radical ideas. They are rather common sense solutions to the pressing challenges facing our nation. To achieve this vision, we must be willing to challenge the status quo and confront the entrenched interests that have long held sway over our political system. This may require grassroots organizing, direct action, and holding elected officials accountable through primary challenges and electoral pressure. Friends, it's time to reassert the power of the people and reclaim our democracy from the grip of corporate influence. This means rejecting the notion that simply being a member of the Democratic Party is enough, and demanding that politicians truly represent the interests of the working class. Until they do, we simply cannot afford to lend them our support or our votes. And I know that that is a very hard notion to grasp, but it's important and vital that we do it. And that is the final word up front. I'm Sean Stanton, and this is Coup Save America. And today we are going to be talking about the ongoing conflict in Gaza, a humanitarian crisis that many are calling a genocide. But don't fret, we have a aspiring politician who has some real common sense solutions to this crisis. Christina Khalil joins us once again here on Coup Save America. She is running for Senate in New Jersey against multiple times indicted congressman. Sorry, brain fog. The names we'll find out. Bob Menendez. There we go. Sorry about that, folks. And Christina will be joining us right after the break. We'll be right back. And we're back. Let's bring in Christina. Hey,
Hi.
friend.
Hey. Thank you so much for having me back. So there's so much to talk about and so much to go over. And just listening to your introduction, a few things popped into my head because I want to start with New Jersey and then we'll work our way out to Palestine. Because we're doing a lot of protests, we're fighting against a lot of corruption in New Jersey.
Yes.
And it is linked to Palestine. So currently we have, all right, let's start in the middle of 2023, after everything started. All right, Phil Murphy passed a bill called the Elections Transparency Act. And he covered it up and advertised it, because he controls the media, as a way to get dark money out of politics. But the reality of it doubles the contributions. It gives him complete dictatorship over the election commissioner. So we don't need the Senate to be, he doesn't need the Senate to be involved. He can dictate if there's going to be an investigation or not. Now, fast forward, we fought against it. They passed it anyway, and they didn't name who actually supported the bill, and it was done in secret. And then they're all, which goes into, how are you in office? You put this bill together, you signed it, and yet nobody could be held accountable for this bill because you're not giving us that information. And now we go into OPRA, where they are now fighting to make it. They're creating a bill. We've been protesting it so far. It's been pulled, but it hasn't been off the table, not to my knowledge yet, where we are not allowed to ask for receipts, where this money is going, who's donating to who, and we're not allowed to trace the money, which is another big red flag, because last Sunday they had an Israel real estate selling. So the people were in Teaneck, New Jersey, selling land in Palestine that didn't belong to them. So they went in, they stole this land, they committed horrific crimes, and there's been no pause. And they came to New Jersey and they had people sell land that did not belong to them.
And that's going on right now.
Yep, that's a big issue right now. The real estate selling just happened last Sunday. There was a huge protest. Not one elected official denounced it. No one stopped it, and they let it move forward.
It just reminds me of the hold that lobbyists like AIPAC have on our politicians.
Yep, which is why they're creating all these bills, because the Green Party and a lot of independents say, follow the money and you're going to find out the truth. They're preventing us from following the money trail, which is preventing us from getting to the truth. And they keep adding all these barriers. And now with the TikTok ban, which is a countrywide issue.
Yes.
So not only are you attacking our First Amendment speech, but you're also attacking the public's right to be able to see who your donors are. And Phil Murphy's wife is running for Senate as well. And the Murphys are as equally as corrupted as Menendez, Bob Menendez. So he used his governor. He's currently elected as governor, and he's using his government power to bully people to give his wife an entire front line on the entire ballot. So there's no democracy. She's just handed everything. She's not paying for a dollar, but we have no idea who's paying for her entire campaign. And we're not allowed to get that money traced, which is more red flags. And then today, I'm scrolling through Instagram, and not Instagram, Twitter, and New Jersey just released another bill. There's going to be a protest on Monday that they are going to make it a crime to say the word genocide in New Jersey. And yep. So I'm just like, we're attacking free speech. We're attacking the truth. We're preventing people from being able to do research on politicians. New Jersey is truly the hub of all the corruption in this entire country. This is just my point of view. I live in New Jersey, and this is how I see it. And it's
and just to be clear, this is Republicans under Donald Trump doing this.
No, this is Democrats.
What?
New Jersey is a Democratic base. We are completely blue, and the governor's blue. Everyone doing this is blue, blue, blue. And
shocking.
Yes, so shocking. And what's even wild is the Murphys were just hanging out with Ivanka Trump and Jared Trump a month ago at Trump's golf course, and they posted a picture. And they're being called progressive, and I'm just
God.
I'm like, what does that word even mean anymore? Progressive.
Yeah. That means
and
nothing.
I'm just like, it's crazy. It's just crazy. And then it goes into, because yesterday I was collecting signatures. Now, can you imagine all the money and tax dollars that just went into creating all these bills and focusing on trying to like write it where they're being corrupt and there's a lot of loopholes and people are being manipulated. So yesterday I'm collecting signatures for my petition and to get on the ballot, and the majority of the people that were signing the petition were families that were currently homeless. Jeez. And with their beautiful children, and it literally broke my heart. But they were so happy to see that there was actually a politician that cares and was out there. And they were sharing their stories on how they fought to get these progressive Dems into office. And then once they were into office, then all this money and this rent and everything becomes unaffordable and everything's skyrocketing. And then the same politicians have been telling them for months that they would help them get housing, and they leave them out cold and dry, and they're still out homeless, and they're still out cold and dry. And then I'm looking through the resources, and because the resources are limited to help them, because they've also been pulling funding from resources. So there's not enough shelters, there's not enough funding going into services for families that truly need it, because they've cut the funding as well, and they've closed a lot of things down. So it's all a domino impact of just messiness and it's disturbing policy. So the money that could have been used, that have been invested into creating all these bills to attack our First Amendment, to work for another country and not the voters in this country, that money could have been used to actually help these families.
Yes.
And then that goes into what's actually causing the mortgages to go skyrocketing and the rent to go skyrocketing, because there are available units, there are available houses, and there's so much that everyone could be housed across the entire country. It's these pilot programs. So they're investing in these pilot programs, these pilot apartments. The people are building them up, and they are supposed to be taking in between 20 and 40% of people with vouchers or Section 8. That's what they say on paper, but they're not doing that. And what they're doing is they'll leave those apartment units empty if you can't spend between $2,000 or $3,000. So they're not paying taxes on these pilot programs for 20 to 30 years. Then they go around and they're charging a abhorrent amount of rent for it. And then in turn, because they're not paying taxes, the other people within the town have to pay their taxes on top of their own taxes. And that's why everything is going up. So instead of implementing any regulations, instead of making changes where these, because the politicians with this investment, they're getting money in their pocket as well. So
absolutely.
So instead of doing the right thing, they're just literally, it's all greed, it's all money, and they think that they're entitled, they deserve the votes, they deserve the seats, they don't actually have to work for the people of this country. And it's just shocking. I was supposed to be collecting signatures for 3 hours. I only did like an hour and a half because it got to a point where I'm just like, how am I supposed to help these families? It's very disheartening to just go out there and just to see all of this. And these kids, even though they're homeless, it's just the smiles on their faces is warm, and they're just like, oh, someone cares. And it's just like, okay, I won't drop out, but like, it's all preventable. It is all prevent.
Yes.
These are all policy choices, and it's just so disturbing that this is what is chosen, that we are investing money into a horrendous crime of the century, but we are not investing money into the voters that need the help. And to say that these kids don't matter not only in our country, but to say the kids don't matter in Palestine or Congo or Sudan as well, it's when do we unite and when do we throw them out as a whole, and when do we choose to make the changes, because we outnumber them at the end of the day. So, and withholding the votes is great, and protests are great, but we need to also show them that their seats are losable.
Yeah.
Well,
how do we do that when we have this rhetoric about you have to? I mean, what you just described is happening in New Jersey, and I really want to point this out for our listeners. This is happening under a Democratic administration. All of the things that we are told are going to happen under Donald Trump are happening under a Democratic administration. They're happening under Joe Biden. I mean, these are draconian measures. Now, look, don't get me wrong. I absolutely agree. Donald Trump is going to be a disaster for this country. There's no debate on that issue. The debate is whether or not it's also a disaster under Democrats, and this need to stop voting for them and go with third-party candidates like Christina Khalil, Dr. My brain fog is Jill Stein.
Yes.
I had COVID recently, and I'm still suffering from some residual brain fog. So, my apologies in advance. But my point is, this is happening under Democratic administration, and we are told, no, just vote blue no matter who. And that last part, that no matter who, that's the problem right there.
Mm-hmm. That's a huge, huge problem, because I did that in the last election. And then I started researching. That's what made me run, because I'm just like, who am I really supporting? And then I find out the people that I voted for are literally just as Donald Trump, but they wear the color blue.
Yeah.
Just as bad as Donald Trump, and they wear blue. And I'm just like, how do we have someone that we have an entire media, the mainstream media, and then we have a whole bunch of Donald Trump's bad, but then we have people in the Democratic Party doing the same exact thing. And, just a good example would be, we have Biden and we have Trump, and they both had files that they kept. Trump was facing charges for it. Biden is too incompetent to face charges, and he's still able to run the country. How are you competent enough to run the country, but you're not competent enough to take ownership for laws that you've broken?
Yeah, and again, I want people to understand it's not just a matter of Biden had some documents. He shared those documents with his ghostwriter to write a book and bragged about the fact that he had these documents. That is a crime. That shows intent.
Yes, that, and the ghostwriter did not have clearance to receive the documents. So it was just like you or me that just got handed these documents. We have no clearance. We have no background. We did not get passed through the security check, and we have top secret top secret documents that we're here and we're looking through. We have no right to look through them.
Yeah, no, the parallels between Donald Trump and Joe Biden are amazing to me. But people don't see it. They praise him as the lesser of two evils. And again, do I think things would be worse under Donald Trump? Yes, but why do we keep ignoring the people that are suffering right now under Democratic administrations?
You know what? I've been saying this lately. It's equally bad under both for me. There is for me, there is no lesser of two evils. They're both equally as evil. So it's just like, what do you want? Do you want a genocide, or do you want a genocide? That's the argument. And then somebody was telling me, you should vote for Biden because there'll be less Palestinians getting killed. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, how does that even make sense? How does it make sense that anybody's getting killed when I could just use my vote to vote for somebody that actually supports saving these kids? Yeah. So why am I going to vote for either person that's going to keep looking the other way and turning a blind eye? But the difference, and this is how I view it, because a lot of people are like, why are you so hard on the Democratic Party and why not the Republicans? Well, the Republicans, I know what to expect. They're telling me exactly what they're going to do. The Democrats are lying to my face, and that's what upsets me. You can't lie and be a hypocrite and not expect me to call you out, and not expect a lot of people to call you out. So you're being two-faced, you're not being honest, and that's why people are holding you more accountable, because I don't know anybody that enjoys being lied to.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And that again is the problem. I get that all the time. Why do you always criticize the Democrats? Why are you so hard on the Democrats? Same thing, same arguments. And my answer is always, again, because I know who Republicans are. People know who Republicans are. I don't need to tell you. You already know. What you don't seem to know is that the Democratic Party is just as bad and just as corrupted.
Yep, and they do the same exact thing. Like even Biden, because again, there's no difference. Biden took all of Trump's policies, and invested in them. So what's the difference if Biden lied? He only won the election because he promised universal health care. He promised to cancel student loans.
Wait a minute. He didn't promise universal health care.
What did he say?
He said he would veto Medicare for all. What he said was public option.
Oh, you are right. You are right. He did say the veto part, but he lied on his entire platform.
Yes.
And it was a progressive platform. And then it goes to show where the majority of Americans stand. We stand with progressive values. We got pulled out of our houses to vote you in, and you didn't enact one thing that we wanted. You gave us a genocide that nobody wanted.
Absolutely. And you got the you got who's the guy that's still in charge of the post office, the carry on from Trump, Louis DeJoy.
How about so someone asked a question, how about the Greens or independents that are vocal against the genocide? Could you clarify your question more? Because Greens and independents are vocal against the genocide, but are you asking how we are vocal against the genocide?
Yeah, that's an excellent question.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about it. You're running in the Green Party.
Yes.
You're a Green Party candidate.
Yes.
Is this a genocide in the first place?
Yeah, from all the professionals that I have listened to and I've watched, it meets all the checklist criteria of the genocide.
There's a database, Law for Palestine, put out that has over 500 statements from Israeli officials that are essentially calling for genocide. They're outright saying it. It's not being hidden. It's outright being said.
Yeah. And they're making it clear as black and white. And then it's even a deeper rabbit hole than that, because it's like the progressive Israelis and the Jewish people within Israel that are against the genocide, they're getting attacked.
Yeah.
On top of everything. So their lives in danger while they're in Israel trying to fight for Palestine, but they know they have to stay there to at least be a voice, to at least give it a shot.
Yeah.
And it's just, and it's crazy. And what's very
And when you say they're being attacked, I want people to understand she's being very literal. They are being physically
yes.
attacked, not just attacked verbally. They are being physically attacked, dragged into the streets, beaten. And who's doing the attacks? The Israeli Defense Forces. Yes.
IDF, and they have permission from Netanyahu and the Israeli military government, their defense. So they said that it is okay. And there was one permission they were giving, that IDF soldiers were given permission to actually shoot protesters down. And we already know how violent they are. So then we know that, okay, they're actually going to, that now there's a fear, they're actually going to be shooting these protesters. And then they also are on live. They're taking these pictures and these videos of torturing of torturing these people. They're actually on live. They're recording themselves committing these international war crimes. And yet nobody, the people in office, the people in the US, because other countries can speak up on it, the people in the US are just like, I'm not sure. And that's why they're going into this whole TikTok ban, because they're just like, we don't want the crimes we're doing to be exposed. We want to hide our crimes.
Yeah, and I'll point out to the audience that one of the things about TikTok is that there are more pro-Palestinian voices on TikTok than there are pro-Israel voices. And that is been demonstrated by studies, and this is one of the reasons why they are trying to take down TikTok.
Yep, and if they lose TikTok, they lose the complete Gen Z voters, because I don't know any Gen Z that says I'm going to be fine without TikTok. But they're using their authoritative abuse, their authoritative power to dictate what we're supposed to see. I want to see the truth, and the truth isn't going to be pretty. But one of but TikTok helped me learn so much with this. Like, there was this one, and it was a viral picture going around. They used a tank to squash this Palestinian. You realize it was a Palestinian because the arm was left, and it was a zip tie. So they had this innocent person tied up, and they literally squashed and flattened everything in the entire body. And you couldn't recognize that was a person. And that was a 15-year-old child they kidnapped. That was a child that they ran over. And they recorded that, and they posted it. And then we have our government saying, we don't know yet if it's, they said they did it. They said they do this a lot. They said they're going to keep doing this. So what do you mean you don't know? And it's extremely disturbing to another level. And then on top of it, they want to target not us, but the Israeli government is going very far to say it's the Jewish people doing this. They're targeting Jewish people for this entire genocide on purpose, because they want the Jewish community to be hated by the entire world. And it's nobody, and it's just, why are you saying Jewish people don't do this? I don't know one single Jewish person that
I don't either.
Yeah, that is engaged or supports these horrific crimes. I'm at protests with them. We talk about how horrible this is, how everyone's feeling helpless, but it's the Zionists that are doing this. And yet you're targeting Jewish people specifically because in history, you want people to say it was the Jewish community. You want people to have a bad viewpoint on this. And then it goes, but why are you targeting them specifically? Why that one community? And I don't have an answer to that, but why them? Which is crazy. Why do you want the entire world to have such a negative view? Because I catch myself in the streets, people are like, oh, Jewish. I'm like, no, we can't say Jewish people. It's Zionists. Please do not use Judaism in relation to this. It is Zionist, which is completely separate from Judaism. And it's just, that's what the media is portraying, and that's what they want. And it's just, why do you want a group of people to be viewed in such a negative light when they're not a negative group of people.
Yeah.
And it's just
how did we even get to this point? I mean, there was October 7th, the Hamas attack, which I condemn wholeheartedly. But here's the thing. You cannot oppress a people for 75 plus years and not expect some level of resistance.
Well, okay. And that's very true. So we got here because after World War II, the Nazi regime, they nobody arrested anybody that was part of the Nazi regime. It was just a few people. Then they got dispersed around the world.
Yeah, we took them in as scientists.
Yep.
The head of NASA was a Nazi. One of the worst ones too, as a matter of fact.
We rewarded people.
Yep.
We didn't punish people. And then Einstein, before he passed away and before 1948, he actually released some documents and letters pleading, do not do this. The Zionists will be the end of a possible Jewish state, because he was for a Jewish state, but to do it in the right way, which would be to buy land, to have a discussion, to say, hey, could we share this land? You know, the Holocaust just ended. Have a proper discussion with someone. And then with any leader in the land, but they said no. And then they invaded, and then you got this violent invasion where they're just killing people for over 75 years. Then they're kidnapping people, then they're torturing people. And then it was actually in a documentary, it came out that they have the world's largest organ transplants. They have the world's largest storage of organs, and Israel even admitted to taking, when they killed the Palestinians, to taking their organs.
The organs, yes.
Yep. So it just goes down this giant dark rabbit hole of the U.S. created this monster. Netanyahu was created by us. We invested in this. We enabled it. We allowed it. This is what the U.S. wanted. And the voters, we didn't know. We didn't know that this was going on. The truth was kept from us. Yep. And then October 7th happened because the Hamas leaders, they actually wanted to get some Palestinians that were kidnapped back. So they went out on October 7th, and when you're pushed against the corner, they wanted to get some of these kids back. So and then it turned into the IDF started actually targeting, and Israel confirmed it. Yep, the IDF actually started targeting. So then it became from trying to kidnap people for an even exchange to trying to save people and pulling them back into Palestine. So it's just cluster mess. And now and that's why the progressives in Israel are at risk, because they're releasing all this information. They're confirming that this is accurate. And even the families of the hostages, because Israel I remember one article came out in the New York Times saying, oh, Hamas raped somebody and killed them on October 7th. And the family said that there was no rape. This person was killed, and we don't know who killed them. But you can't say that this person, my family member, was raped when there was no rape. And so even the families of the in Israel are coming forward and speaking on this. So it's not about, it's not about, Hamas is bad. It's, you have a power, and it's just like, when it's like in the US, if one of us is getting attacked by an officer and we're innocent and we do something to defend ourselves, we're going to be held accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just like, wait, no, I was just sitting here and the cop was like under the influence and just started violently assaulting me. What do you mean I couldn't defend myself? And that's the exact same situation. So that's a good comparison I like to give to people, because in the US, they don't allow us to defend ourselves. And even when it comes to some, certain laws, you just can't defend yourselves in any way, depending on the state. But the same thing over there, to tell me that a person, only one group of people have a right to defend themselves, but you're telling me a Palestinian parent's not allowed to do whatever it takes to defend their kids?
Yeah.
Like, I just can't see it. Like, any parent I know is going to go to the ends of the earth to do anything to protect their child. So we have people that just in office that are elected that look the other way, and we can't. And the same thing, like where I was collecting signatures with the homeless families, they're just like, how do we have people just in that one city? How do we have people that are elected in office and nobody knows what's going on when I ask, what about affordable housing? Why is this happening? And no, everyone puts their hands up and they're just like, I don't know why that's happening. You guys are writing the bills and creating these laws. You know exactly why that's happening. So why are you playing like you don't know why it's happening? These are the policy choices you put into place to make sure this happens this way. So it goes, and that's why it's very important to get active, to get involved, to speak with other politicians, or to even reach out. Green Party, we vet, and we always encourage on every single level of whatever political campaign you're interested in. We want you to run. We're going to help you run. We're going to build you up. We are completely grassroots funded. We don't have a lot of money, but we have figured out and developed inexpensive ways to get things done. So, and you get like an entire support team and a support system. So the only way to make changes is on the outside. Because when I started this, I started as a progressive Dem, and I shared the text messages and the information when I was first on here with you. Yes. Is they pushed us all out. You can't be a progressive Dem in New Jersey. Every voting election and every voting year, they push us all out. So at what point is enough? Because I don't want to keep going in the circle where it's like, well, if I'm going to invest my energy, I want to invest it in something sure where I'm not just fighting the right-wing extremists. I want to invest it where my energy is just put into progressive policies, and I'm with like-minded people that want to build, that want to have solutions, that want to make changes. So it's just, that's where I'm at right now. So that's why I'm like, I had to leave the Dems. I couldn't. There's not one progressive person that has ever been able to be elected, and they always push us out.
Yeah. Well, people will say, well, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or the Squad were allowed.
Look at them now.
But yeah.
The Fraud Squad is broken up. And I hate, actually I don't hate it. I took that from Brianna Joy. She called them the frauds. Yeah, I love her. Yeah. She called them the Fraud Squad. So I took that phrase from her. But now AOC is a mini Nancy Pelosi. They were only elected to push Pelosi out. They failed to do that. And then they pocketed the money. And then they didn't even challenge the U.S. when it came to funding Israel. And then they voted yes. So look at what the Squad and AOC has become. And now AOC was supporting of protesters, but a few weeks ago she got protested herself. And then she said, you protesters are not helping the Palestinian people. What do you mean? Yeah, the protests, you even said protests are done to make politicians uncomfortable so they can listen to the voters, and you supported it, but you don't support it when it's against you, when you're doing wrong.
Yeah, I believe she said make a ruckus, but apparently there's an exception. Make a ruckus, but not with me.
Yes. Hold everyone but me accountable.
Yeah. No. The Squad has been, one of the biggest disappointments in my life, really.
Yeah.
And even Bernie Sanders has gone along with so much of this.
He really has.
It's like he's surrendered. It's been a huge disappointment all the way around.
Follow the money, because he received some of the donations. And and that's, if anyone's ever wondering why their politicians all of a sudden just stopped supporting the same thing that they support, you look at Open Secrets and you review the FEC. When I was reviewing I didn't review everyone's yet, but when I was reviewing FEC for Andy Kim, that's how I learned Sam Bankman-Fried, the crypto guy, the Bitcoin guy, who has been facing his own indictments for corruption. He's friends with Andy, and he's been donating to Andy. I'm like, okay, so that's another progressive that's taking corporate donations.
Yep.
Make it make sense. So sorry.
Well, no, I was going to say, and follow the money on Israel, and that leads you right back to AIPAC, who funds the majority of our politicians. And I want to be clear, AIPAC and Israel want Donald Trump. They are a right-wing extremism government.
Yep.
That want to make America into the same. And that is why AIPAC is one of the biggest supporters of the Republican Party, including members who were involved in January 6th.
Well, the top two donors of AIPAC is Biden and my opponent Menendez, and they're both Democrats. And what I try to paint the picture, because I am friends with progressive Dems across the country and in New Jersey as well. The problem isn't progressive Dems. The problem is the people that are elected are not progressive Dems.
Right.
They are regular Democrats that have right-wing extreme values and beliefs. And if you look at their receipts and the work they've done in the history, this is not a surprise, and they do not support progressive policies, and I don't think they ever will. This has been their entire career, but they get paid to do what Republicans do. So the best way to explain it is, imagine that the Democratic Party was infiltrated by Republicans, because that's essentially what's happening. Like that is what happened. So we have the Democratic Party that is Republican Party. We got two Republican parties. So where's the difference? And then even the Republican Party, the Republicans are pissed off at the Republican Party, because they're just like, we want you to support us. We don't even want you, because even with their right-wing extreme values, they're just like, it's still at home. Why aren't you giving us that money for our goals and our stuff? So they're even pissed off at the duopoly, because they're just like, we voted you in, and you're not even doing anything for us as well.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And this is part of the problem. So I want to ask, going back to what's happening in Gaza.
Yes.
Israel needs to be held accountable.
100%.
If you're elected, what are your plans for taking a stance on this issue?
So first, I would actually implement sanctions, because they were supposed to stop the violence and infiltrating. And I think I would be calling out people within parties and just encouraging other people to run and see how I can help get these seats replaced, because it's going to be a lot of work when in office. And then also I'm going to be working on, it's going to be an immediate ceasefire and cutting funding, trauma-based policies to focus on cleaning up the land, rebuilding Palestine, having us take accountability for our role in it, providing lifelong medical care and treatment to the victims, and then focusing on an ethical Green New Deal and environmentally friendly construction for Palestinians, making sure we preserve the truth in history, creating individual state with its own infrastructure. So there's a lot to go into it, but this opens up an entire job market, and this way it's going to boost the U.S. economy, boost the Palestinian economy, develop healthy international relationships so we have better trade, and also getting people back on our side, because right now with BRICS, if we're looking at the international trade, we have people denouncing the US dollar and every other currency. So Palestine is really the heart of everything. And, essentially how our monetary system works, is it okay that they're denouncing the US dollar? Fine, yes. But in the long run, what if their Federal Reserves does not take our US dollars and cuts it completely? Then what if we need something from another country? That's going to limit our trade and prevent resources. So this is a sanction that is going to hurt people like you and me, and we're going to be victims for a government we never supported, and they are engaging in activities we never wanted. We want to have good international relationships, because the United States is one of the only countries, and this is how, because I'm in the US, so I guess I'm biased, we are a giant country that's a melting pot. So we represent every religion, every culture, every country within this country.
Absolutely.
And we are doing such a poor job of representation. And then we have Americans that are going over to Israel and even getting murdered, and the US saying it's okay to even kill Americans. And when we have families like in New Jersey and Trenton, we had the Palestinian American families begging in Trenton, which is our capital, to the leaders, the elected officials, to call for a ceasefire, because they want to go over to Palestine and bury their loved ones. And the governor said, I stand with Israel. I don't stand with you guys. That's a Democratic governor in New Jersey that was supposed to be progressive because we elected him to be progressive. And then, so can you just imagine the impact on these families that are crying and so heartbroken here in New Jersey? And I know they're across the country as well, but I see them in New Jersey. And to have the people you fought to get voted in because the message was, we don't need another 4 years of Trump. So, and they're just like, you're right. We want to stop the Muslim ban. We want to stop this. We want to help them. Yeah. And just to be turned around, and it got insanely worse for the Islamic and Arab community. And now they're just like, wait, but the ban kept my cousin alive. The ban kept my father alive. One of the imams in New Jersey, he was watching a live when he learned 14 of his family members were murdered. And then it's like, what do you do? And then not one elected official, all they're saying when they called him up, they're like, oh, I'm sorry. He's like, well, stop it. And they're like, I'm not calling for a ceasefire. But I just want to say sorry because when Ramadan comes up, I want to make sure like you're ready to take photos with me. And it's like, what okay, so you're taking, but you're not giving. And you're not giving simple things because if we follow the money, you're putting money, profits over people. And that's not how it should be.
No, I agree 100%. And it's just heartbreaking hearing this whole thing is just heartbreaking.
It really is. And then when you see how it's connected, like from Palestine all the way back to just New Jersey in itself, it's like, what does the rest of the country look like?
Yeah. And what do you make of, or how do you perceive of Israel's handing of humanitarian aid and attacking humanitarian aid workers and that impact that it's having on Palestinians? I mean, again, and we're funding this.
Well, my take on that is it's just idiocracy. It's like, it's like, they're showing, the Palestinians are showing that they have children that are disabled that are starving to death. So it's like, we're getting the aid in, but then some of them, which is still a big question. So say one of the organizations get in, or Israel brings it in. Sometimes they're charging the Palestinians, but the stuff's already paid for. So how are you charging the Palestinians that have no money and no means of income? Because the Palestinians, they'll post their PayPal, because I follow a few of them. They post their PayPal and they're like, this is how much they're charging me for bread. And it's price gouging too. I need $20 for a loaf of bread so I could feed some people in my family, so I could feed people in my neighborhood. We are donating to already get this paid. So why are we price gouging on top of it? It's a huge money scheme, and it brings more red flags. And then we have, what was it? A veteran shared it on his page. A country did a drop, an emergency drop of supplies in Palestine, and then a few minutes later, they waited till the Palestinians went there. Then they bombed that drop and Palestinians. Right. I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, and then you're saying, and then they showed it from different angles because the U.S. was like, we don't know if it's the same location. They're like, this is the location, and they put it out on a map. They were like, this is the precise location. This is where the bomb went. This is what happened. You can't. These are different angles of the same thing. Same day the video was taken, and people were able to prove that all that was accurate. And then you got, which was swept over, and then you got Aaron Bushnell. Hopefully I didn't butcher his last name, where he engaged. He was the second person in the U.S. to engage in such extreme protest. Wait, yes. Was it the U.S.? I know there was another person who did the same thing in another protest, but the second person to engage in that. And then they're saying, oh, mental illness, and two things, because I've worked with people who struggled with suicide and stuff like that, but it wasn't. He didn't suffer with extreme mental illness. He was very self-aware. This was planned out. He made sure there was safety measures. He gave everybody a very big warning. This is what he was going to do. And he was so self-aware as he was doing it. And he knew his life was going to end, and he was ready to do that. And that's what the soldiers, they say, sign up for the country and sacrifice your life for our corporations and our corporate greed. The U.S. gets to tell you when you die. You don't get to tell us when you die. So then, and then on top of it, people are trying to denounce it, but nobody's talking. If you're using mental health, why aren't we creating bills and adding more funding for veterans? Like, and soldiers? Why aren't we focused on that? So it's everything but accountability. It's always pointing, it's not my responsibility, this is the issue. Okay, well, you're in a position of power to create the laws and policies to actually fix this issue, so fix it. Like, it's simple. The majority of people are saying don't do this, and you're saying I don't know how to stop. Yes, you do. Make a phone call, write policies, start actually representing the people that voted you in, because you can't complain that you get voted out, and you can't complain that you're not doing what you want to do. Like, you can't make the changes when you have the actual current ability to make the changes, and then you don't have it. Like in 2020 to 2022, the House, Senate, and President was all Democratic. Where were our policies that we supported, that we wanted? Where was everything? And then under Biden restarted. He restarted the student loans. People are struggling. You got homeless people and saying you have to pay for this. You have people living to paycheck that you have to pay for this. So at what point is it that they take accountability and they reflect on themselves and say, okay, we messed up? Because if they can say, and knowing majority of Americans, if they're saying, if we have someone in office that says, look, I messed up and now we're going to fix it, and they start moving in the right direction, you have the election in the bag. Like, you just took accountability and you just implemented change. But
the problem is that if they've actually implemented something. The problem is that they're very good at making promises. They're not so good at apologizing for their so-called mistakes. Because they're not mistakes, they're deliberate.
Oh yeah.
And this reminds me, just the other day I came across an article, and I posted it on Facebook, and it talked about the Democratic leadership. So we're talking Pelosi and Hakeem Jeffries, or whatever his name is, donated to a centrist, and when they say centrist, they mean right-wing conservative, centrist political action committee that is going to undermine their own agenda. They're undermining their own agenda. Hakeem Jeffries, the House, he'd be speaker if Democrats won the House back.
But here's the thing. That's who they always were.
Yeah.
If you look at their career, they were never progressive. They were always more on the right wing and the centrist. And, it's someone brought up a very good point. They were just like, this is going to end one way or another. It's going to end with Father Time taking them out, or it's going to end with electing new people. But we don't need to wait. Like, I don't want to wait another 10 or 15 years for Father Time. I want to start this now, because we have kids now. I have kids on the street now. I don't have, and this is just domestically, and I don't have 15 years. Those 15 years with that 5-year-old child is going to be 20. Who knows what's going to happen?
Well, but we have to, don't you understand? We have to take that money and invest it in genocide and the war in Ukraine and all of these other places where the money is going.
And even Ukraine reminds me so much of what happened in Ireland with like the potato famine and everything. And a lot of people don't see it. They're saying poor white people hold no value in Ukraine. So they're out there and they're sacrificing them, and they're just letting them die. And we don't have anyone in office that's actually, it's the same thing that's happening in Gaza, and nobody is protecting these guys. And then when we're sending money to Zelensky, where's that money going?
Yeah.
How are we missing billions of dollars? Because if I made billions of dollars in the U.S. vanish, then I would have to stand on federal trial. Christina, where'd you pull all that money? Okay, why are we sending more money? And then on top of it, when you learn that that's not actually our tax dollars, they created new funding and new debt.
Right. That's exactly the point. Thank you. That is exactly a good point.
Yeah, it's not that, because a lot of people are saying, well, we could stop paying taxes. No, we can't, because they're not using our tax dollars for that. literally creating new money and new debt to support other countries and to kill people and children and to engage in multiple genocides. And that new debt and money, because people are like, well, we don't have, the money for this. No, you just take that money you created with the new debt and you invest it in us. That's it. Yeah. You already created, so we can create the money. And it's all about the resources. Because even Greenspan, a Republican, said, when it comes to the U.S. dollar, before I say this, the U.S. dollar is very special because we are one of the few currencies that's not attached to the gold reserves.
Right.
So we have the freedom to hold our dollar as valuable as we want it. So if I'm saying cell phones in the U.S. with the U.S. dollar are all going to cost like $20, that's how much they're going to cost. Like, we hold the value because it's people have to compare their money to the US dollar or their money to the gold standard. So I just lost my train of thought. We created the money. Oh, see, I'm having a brain fog moment now.
Well, you're talking about how it's not tax dollars being used. It's money that we're creating.
Yes. So we created this money and we don't have it attached to a gold standard. And yet we are choosing to invest it. Greenspan. There we go. That's the connection I want to make. So then Greenspan, when they were trying to privatize Medicare, he said publicly, and it didn't go with, I forgot the guy's name, Paul Ryan, right? Anyway, the guy questioning him because he was hoping Greenspan went toward his questioning. Greenspan said, look, he was just like, essentially, the U.S. can print as much money as they want because we are a currency issuer, and our currency issuer holds the value because we are not attached to the gold standard, and we don't have to pay any debt back. We only owe ourselves money, essentially. So he was just like, we can spend money. We can print and spend money on anything we want as long as the resources are there. And that shut down the privatize of the Medicare. They're still trying to do it. But publicly, he acknowledged that, and that's a Republican. We could actually utilize that money and spend it. And the resources are the U.S. citizens. The resources are building more, are creating more affordable homes. The resources are creating more farmers markets, giving more people jobs, because we can also have a job guarantee with a livable wage. And that would create healthy competition within privatized corporations. That's going to be like, okay, we want people to work for our company, so now we have to match or do better with the standard of work. So we have the solutions. We just don't have people in office that want to push forward or even speak on this. And it's just it's stressful and when you understand how everything works and how it's all connected, it's like, this is so simple to fix. We're choosing not to. And it's not like they don't know how our currency works. They know how our currency works. They choose to not actually tell people, and they choose to lie about our currency. They choose to not actually address it, and they choose to play dumb. They choose to play dumb with everything. And we do not need dumb leaders or leaders that want to lie in our country or leaders that want to put the U.S. citizens in harm's way. We need leaders that actually care, and we don't need extremists. We need people with common sense and education in office. And these people lack it. And, they have the money so they could buy a degree. They don't actually have to work for it. And there's two different peoples with degrees. You could buy it, but then there's the people that are hungry that want the education, so they work for it.
Yeah. No, it's, again, this whole thing is by choice. It's by design. Yeah. And, as I said in my monologue, we're a sinking ship. I don't see us being salvageable at this point without some sort of major revolution occurring. And my fear is that it's going to be a violent revolution, that we're descending into almost a new wave of civil war in this country.
Yep. And you actually wouldn't be too far off. You're not the first person that said that. They said this is either going to end with electing independent third-party candidates, new people not attached to the money, or this is going to end with a very violent revolution. And I'm just like, oh, geez, I don't want to be around for a violent revolution. But then we look at Texas. They're ready to start a revolution within that state. And it's just like, where are leaders to prevent this and actually implement plans and implement policies that make the changes? Because like I could sit here and I could go over every single policy and tell you how we're going to fund it and tell you how we're going to lower taxes and how long this is going to take and this can happen within the first 2 years and blah blah blah. But we also have other candidates as well that can do the same thing. But if we don't get into office, we can't do it. And then also if you vote for the same people and then you know they're not going to do it. You know they're never going to do it. They've never done it. So what's going to make them work hard now? Now, the beauty of getting somebody in, especially a third-party candidate in office, and they someone told me, because I was like, what if, because I'm running along a slate of a whole bunch of other candidates, not just in New Jersey, but also across the country as well. So there's a giant group of us that are very progressive. We are not corporate funded. But I was like, what if, say I get elected by myself and I'm making these policies, but everyone's voting no. And the voters were just like, they were like, you know, Christina, they were like, that could really happen. Yes, that could happen. But that means we have someone in office is going to challenge the status quo, and you're voting and listening to the voters. And not only that, you voting no on something is going to force and put pressure because you're not falling in line. So now we're going to see who's voting yes, and you're going to be calling it out, and you're going to say why you voted no. That's going to put pressure on them to now come to your side, or they're going to lose their seat.
Well, let's hope. I mean, we are so stuck in the cycle of complacency.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to Gaza, the uncommitted votes on Biden, do you think, I mean, first of all, the vast majority of Democrats do not want Joe Biden to run. They do not want it.
I also don't want Newsom running.
Yes, I don't either.
But it looks like they might be propping him up to replace him. I think what they need to say is who they want to run. I think they need to pick the uncommitted, because it is a large amount of people. And I'm looking at these. First off, I'm so proud that they're just like, yeah, we're going to show you a protest vote. We're all voting for committed. Good for you. But instead of allowing the establishment to pick who they're going to replace Biden with, I do believe that the uncommitted need to come together and pick who they want to replace Biden.
Well, here's my question, though. So with Biden already with a very low approval rating, people, at least in terms of people wanting him to run, people thinking he's too old to run, too senile to run, to whatever. You add to that what's going on in Gaza, that is really, to my surprise, I mean, this uncommitted vote, as you said, is not insignificant. It's a very large number of people. And if they persist and say, we're not going to vote for Joe Biden in the general election because of this genocide that's going on in Gaza, do you think that's a real possibility?
I think that if they listen, this is just my point, this is my perspective, and this is just my observation. I think if they cared, they would have already replaced Biden. But I do, because maybe I could be wrong. Like, I've just lost hope within the duopoly in the system, and the DNC says they pick the presidential candidate. We don't. They even said, they came out in court when they were getting sued, where they said they do not have a right to actually listen to the voters or support the voters because they are a private company. So I think that it's going to be a very big rude awakening come general election for them. But the uncommitted, there are some people within the uncommitted, they're voting within, because it's split in half. They're voting within with the mindset that they're not supporting Biden for the primaries.
Right.
But some of them will support him still in the general. Like, the uncommitted is strictly a protest vote just to send a message. And then we have the other half that said, I'm only voting for uncommitted in the primaries, and this is the candidate I'm voting in the general, and it's not Biden. So I do think that the uncommitted people need to come together to support who they would like to replace Biden.
And who would that even be? I don't even see any Democrat that would inspire me to consider.
No, I don't see anyone either. I think it would have to be someone completely like pulled out from the street that's very progressive, that's education, that's knowledgeable, and then they're saying, okay, you're going to represent us and we're doing progressive policies and you have full reign. But so that's the only way I see this working, because they've all showed their true colors and what they truly stand for, especially what's happening in Gaza and what's happening in the US, because there's a crisis. There's a housing crisis. There's a mental health crisis. There's a gun crisis. There's a financial crisis. There's so many medical crises.
Healthcare crisis, yeah.
Yeah. Healthcare crisis. There's so many crises happening, and not one person that's in office is standing up for this. And it's just like, yeah, so it's like, what, you got a crisis here at home, you got a crisis overseas, and you're all washing your hands saying, I don't know what to do. Well, why are you in office if you don't know what to do? Why are you writing policies if you don't know how to write policies?
Well, you know, I get all sorts of hate on social media when I say that I'm supporting Jill Stein. I get told, oh, if you're supporting the third party, you're actually voting for Donald Trump.
I'm voting for Biden.
Right.
Is Donald Trump? Sorry to cut you off.
No, that's exactly the point I was going to make. And here's what I keep telling people. Yeah, maybe Trump will win. I mean, do I have any illusion that Jill Stein can win the election? No. Do I want her to? Yes. But in this country, with so many people afraid, I mean, again, this vote blue no matter who crowd is impervious to facts. They do not like facts whatsoever. Facts bother them and upset them.
Yep, they do not like facts.
And, you know, I've heard the same thing when it comes to I mean, even if I were willing to vote for Joe Biden, this whole genocide thing would lose. That's the red line for me.
Yeah.
And so, given all of that, I don't really think that Jill Stein can win in this country right now. However, that being said, if there's ever been a time for a third party candidate to rise, this is the environment where it could happen. Yes. What are your thoughts on that?
So we in Green, like in New Jersey, I'm running to win because I just, you know, I like to challenge people and argue with people and just like say like, you're just wrong. So I'm running to win in New Jersey, but overall, I can see Jill Stein hitting the 5% mark.
Yes.
And when we hit the 5% mark, that means we are considered an official party. We have federal funding to actually build our infrastructure. So it's not just volunteers and a whole bunch of people. We could actually pay staffers. And this can be a huge career. And we also have people like Jason Call and myself and a whole bunch of other wonderful people. I forgot his name. He's supposed to be speaking soon. I'm going to go see him. Oh, Chris Hedges. So we have like Chris Hedges supports Jill, and Chris, and in Princeton in a couple weeks is going to be Chris Hedges and Norman Finkelton. Actually,
wow.
I know. I'm so excited. I can't wait. So speaking in Princeton, New Jersey. So it's like we have the power move and we have powerful people and structure, and then we could get the funding federally that's going to build the ethical party. So the goal is to fight for that. The goal isn't to just like lay down and give up, because it's, if I want Trump and I like his policies and I'm going to go vote for Biden, like what, like really what's the difference here? So Biden is the continuation of Trump. My gas just costs less under Trump. Like what's the difference? And then I know if Trump's in office, the Democrats are going to work overtime now to make sure that there's progressive policies being passed. So what you guys, because they're going to want to get back into office again. So now they got to spend the next 4 years rebuilding the trust that they lost, going to protests. They're going to have AOC do more, photo opportunities, pretending to cry at the gate and stuff like that. So it's what are like, but if I just hand someone a vote that never earned it and is going against every principle and value that I stand for, I might as well vote for like let Trump in, but at least I get to vote and put my vote toward a party that matters. It's my choice, and at least I get to fight for people that support my beliefs, and at least I get to go out there and help uplift people. I'm not going to do anything to support Trump or Biden's policies. Like, I have 12 police officers a month in New Jersey that blow their brains out. And I'm saying this graphically because I've spoken to politicians on this. Not one of them care. Why am I going to continue to vote blue no matter who, when I have to work with the suicidal officer, and then they're suicidal and they're struggling, and then sometimes they're still out on duty and you're not giving them any resources to take time off, and then the community's got to feel that? Why don't you care? So I'd rather vote for somebody that actually cares.
Well, and that 5% threshold is what my vote is all about.
Yeah.
The Green Party needs my support. The Democratic Party does not. They've not earned it. They're not getting it. And it's going to the Green Party to get that 5% threshold. That's doing something to me. Surrendering. And what I'd like to say to the blue no matter who crowd is, no, what you're doing is complacency. What you're doing is not helping. At least my vote is going to help a party emerge, because that 5% threshold is critical. And I think that we can actually attain that this cycle. I really do.
And I believe in too. And we have more people than ever before building this entire infrastructure, honestly. And it's across the entire country. We even have Democrats that said that they're going to still work as on progressive values, but they're supporting Jill Stein. So it's beautiful to see. And I've even seen some Republicans that said, I'm going to just vote for Jill because I hate both parties. Like, I can't. The Republicans never do anything that they say they're going to do. And they're just like, we need change. So if
Republicans do some of the things that they claim to do. Unfortunately, they're all bad.
Yeah. So actually, there are some Republicans that believe that Republicans are going to grant guaranteed universal health care and stuff like that, and actually end the student loan, like actually do progressive policies, which is I was just like, I've never heard Republicans say that. And they're saying, no, they've said that to me and stuff like that. I'm like, oh. And they're just like, but they don't do that. And I'm like, well, that's the Dems. They're like, no, the Dems lie. I'm not going to vote. I'm like, well, we have Green. They're like, I could do that. I could vote for Green. Like, I won't vote for a lying party. I'll vote for an honest party.
Yeah. And I think that the Democrats are starting to feel some of that, at least around the crisis in Palestine. Chuck Schumer just came out and condemned Benjamin Netanyahu, which again, to me, is that, that's great, but it's a few minutes too late. You've already funded and enabled all of this. Sorry. Even Biden is coming out and trying to walk some of this back, and now kind of claim that he's going to call for a ceasefire. I'm sorry. We've gone beyond the red line.
Well, an article came out, because I love how the staffers are snitching on Biden inside the White House. So Biden and Schumer are saying this, again, to try and save face. But it's every 36 hours, the U.S. is providing military weapons to Israel, so to continue the genocide, and we're still funding them. So how do you say you're against this, but your actions say you're for this?
Yep.
Where's the cutoff? And and they can say whatever they want. This was still a policy choice to what I suspect in August, no, maybe September. In September to November, Netanyahu may be removed. But he's going to be replaced with another right-wing extremist because they are built. Yep. And if you listen, someone pointed it out to me. Biden is always referring to Reagan and what happened with Reagan. Reagan was too senile to be held accountable, and he was too delusional and had dementia. So now they're setting Biden up to do the same thing, so everyone gets to wash their hands. I think every single politician that has played a role in this needs to be replaced and removed immediately and held to international court, to the highest law possible.
And prosecuted.
Every single U.S. politician needs to face a trial. And they're literally using Biden and Netanyahu as the scapegoats, just like they did with Hitler in World War II. But it wasn't, Hitler didn't gain power. You had a whole bunch of people in there. Why didn't everyone else along with him get held accountable? So you're literally building these two people up for accountability, and then they're going to be replaced with the same people, just a different face, same values. And it's like, at what point does the U.S., because united we stand, divided we fall. And I always go back to that. So if we unite, we can throw out the corruption. But if we are divided on everything, that's how they were able to seep their way in. That's how they were able to maneuver, and they're fighting so hard to keep the U.S. and everyone divided within it. And it's time for us to unite under common causes and common beliefs that we share. And then we can, discuss the differences and come up. There are some different, abortion, there isn't some differences. That is a medical right. We need to keep that with the doctors. But, if, for example, if we're looking at guns, Second Amendment, yes, we do need to remove. Some is okay to keep. That's how I view it. And right now with the gun crisis going on, and I'm looking at it, I actually didn't put a policy together because I don't know how to put one together. I'm like, do we have a gun crisis? Yes. But who am I with our current government acting all fascist and taking people's First Amendment rights away and engaging in such extreme acts? Who am I to tell people that they have to give up their automatic weapons? Because that fear was developed from our current government. So in order to do this, the only way to tackle it, in my view, first mental health, and then we have to regain trust with the public for them to say, okay, we'll give up our weapons because we trust the government's going to be in good faith. But how am I supposed to say you can't? I don't trust the government. How am I supposed to tell you to trust the government? And I don't even own guns. So I'm trying to, in the mindset, if I owned all these guns, would I trust to give? And it's like, no, I couldn't. And that's the other thing with gun owners. They're just like, how am I supposed to trust the government? We're just waiting. And again, with the other people, this could end in a violent, bloody revolution. And they're just like, I need to be able to protect myself, because the U.S. is going toward a police country, a police state. They just developed 69 cop cities across the country, billions of dollars invested, 69 of them. And they're planning more, and they were trying to hide all of this information from the public. And then my friend, she actually did the research, and she followed the money, and she followed the receipts, and she put an entire map together. So that money could have been used, again, you created new debt. So that money with the new debt could have been used to uplift Americans, not actually, put them down or attack them or hurt them. So, and it's just, we have things that we could talk out and come to compromises with, but we have to unite against what's happening, because it's going to be our future children and the future generations. And even when we retire, we're still going to feel it, because right now, when it comes to the geriatric population, they are so neglected and ignored that it's like, if they can't drive anymore, we need to be able to get food to them, because sometimes the families die off. It's because people are like, well, they should have had kids. It's not the kids' responsibility, number one, to take care of the parents, but two, sometimes these kids in the family die off before the elderly, because of everything that's happening, environmental stressors, and the amount of people where they started with that I've worked with and I've met, that started with large families, but they just happen to outlive everyone, including their kids. At what point do we say, this is us? These people, we work and we run the entire country. It's our tax dollars. It's our hard work, because if Google would not exist without its employees. Ford would not exist without its employees. None of these companies would exist without the employees. So we are working and using our blood, sweat, and tears to build up these corporations, and then people go home. But now it's up to the corporations and the government to take care of the citizens when their time for retirement comes, and they deserve to retire. People deserve to retire with dignity and respect. People do not deserve to retire worrying about if they're going to be able to afford their medication, if they're going to be able to see a doctor, if they're getting cataracts at a much older age, can they even afford the surgery? Are they going to be able to drive? And that's going to, again, open up an entire new job market with a livable wage. And that's building the U.S. infrastructure by itself. So we need to focus on the people that in this country that need to come first, and then we can continue to move forward from there. But it's just when you see, again, from objectively, when you look at it from the larger picture, it's like none of this makes sense. It's all poor policy choices.
Yeah, well, again, the poor policy choices that are by design, that are paid and bought for by corporate America.
Yep. And then
that's the problem.
And then my favorite is when, and I'm not a fan of Elon Musk in any way, shape, or form, but my favorite is when people complain about Elon, all he has to do is pay his taxes. I'm like, the same politicians that are crying that for this, they could actually write the policy so he can pay his taxes. Why aren't we writing the policies and voting so he can pay his taxes? Yeah. Where was that between 2020 and 2022? Where was that?
Yeah, no, I know. It's we've been totally captured by a corporate oligarchy, and we're worrying about a dictatorship under Trump. And here's the thing. Yes, under Donald Trump, things are probably going to get worse, or they're going to feel worse. That's going to be the difference. We're going to feel the pain more.
I think it's going to be the same because Biden already is doing everything Trump started, and then Trump's going to continue what Biden did. So it's like, I don't think anything's going to change. I think, like, I'm struggling. I have to work 2 jobs on a paycheck to paycheck while I'm running for office. And this is all literally funded by donors that really want change. And it's all grassroots, no corporations. I have to sign a contract, guys. But then it's like, I'm still going to struggle. Like, I'm not going to see any difference. Like, healthcare is still going to be unaffordable. I'm still going to have to pay student loans. I'm still going to be struggling and suffering. But the only difference is the Democrats will actually work for the voters and progressive values.
Well, they'll pretend to work.
Yes, they'll pretend to work, and they'll be with us at the protests, and they'll be fighting for us. Yep. So at least we'll have more protesters in the street, right? Like, that's the only difference.
Well, and here's what I was going to say, though. Here's how I know things are not going to change.
Yeah.
Because this whole framework of democracy, this idea that, oh, well, if Trump wins, we'll never be able to vote again. He'll take voting away. Here's how I know that that's all bullshit. Corporate America runs this country. Yeah. They're going to allow. They're not. If they don't allow it, it's not going to happen. So we're already living under a false democracy. It's 100%. A corporatocracy in the first place, and that's how you know nothing that they say is going to happen to Trump is really going to. I mean, again, things are going to be bad, but things are going to be bad no matter what. The difference is, like you said, there's going to be the illusion that the Democrats are doing something, and that's why we're going to notice things more.
Yes, and not only that, you had Biden. I think it was within this month or the end of last month. He invited Trump to come to the White House to develop an immigration policy on border. Like, what's the difference? What is the difference? We literally voted for you to get this out of office, and then, like, you're inviting him. Like, so you guys are just running this on the same platform, essentially. So I'm like, you invited him, and then we have the Murphys, which are supposed to be progressive in New Jersey, and they're hanging out with Ivanka Trump. You guys are all friends, and Biden says we're all friends at the end of the day. Yeah. And it's just like, there is no difference. It's just we're going to have more protesters in the street.
Yep. And why? Here's what the problems persist either way. Mm-hmm. Yet under Trump, we did see a lot more. I was inspired in many ways under Trump, because I saw all of these people coming together to protest the injustices that were happening, from the Women's March to Black Lives Matter. Mm-hmm. And I really believe that was a tipping point, that we were going to see transformative change. Beyond that, of course, it didn't happen. Mm-hmm. But why is that same energy not occurring right now in the streets under Joe Biden?
It is. So when it comes to and I'm sure you know this, Sean. So when it comes to mainstream media, if the Republicans give $1 million, but the Democrats give $2 million, that's what the media is going to run when it comes to mainstream. So if they make a larger donation, they get the money. So there are more protests happening. They're just not being shared. You really have to look for it. So I stress to people to listen to independent media news sources, to not listen to mainstream media, because it's all manipulated. None of it is accurate in any way, shape, or form. And I encourage people to do like a 30-day mainstream media fasting and just listen to independent news. You're going to see like a huge difference within 30 days. But it's all about the money. So if Trump's in office, you're going to see more protests in the news because the Dems have more money to donate to that. And that's where the issue is, because like people are sharing it. There's a whole bunch of independent news sources. Like in Teaneck, New Jersey, the protest was so large for the Israeli government, not one news station covered it. Like every week, there is about 3 to 4 large protests in New Jersey for Palestine and against the corporations. That's every week. Not one mainstream news source is covering that. Then I'm getting reports of other protests happening in other countries and in New York and stuff like that. But they're not being on the mainstream news source. Again, it's independent news sources and people that are there that are recording live for that. And they're sharing, and they have a large following. So they're utilizing their large following for that.
And this is one of the reasons why people like Aaron Bushell are driven to such extreme tactics because they realize that the mainstream media is not paying attention. And so they have to engage in these extreme acts just to get the media attention.
Yep. And again, that was a policy choice, and our U.S. government forced Aaron to act in that way. But like that, his death is on their hands.
Absolutely.
And and they need to be held accountable for that as well.
Do you think there's going to be any actual accountability over what's going on in this country, especially in Gaza, in terms of our country supporting this?
So that's a heavy question, because I've always wondered that. I think if we don't get new people in office, they're going to hope we fall in line and forget about it. And even the DNC has said it. The voters are always going to fall in line, and they're always going to forget, and it's going to be a news cycle and blah, blah. They're never going to remember this, and they think that this is going to be swept under the rug. But if that's the case, if we don't get new people in office, we're going to feel the repercussions. And that opens us up to actually being, because the entire world hates the U.S. right now.
Oh, and with good reason.
And the U.S. government is literally opening up vulnerabilities, and we can be at risk for another attack, for being attacked or terrorized. And the U.S. government is okay with U.S. citizens dying and not preventing horrific events and horrific crimes from happening to us. So that's how I think it's going to be. If we get new people in office, and we can say, okay, you guys have to be held accountable. You guys have to go to court, have to go to trial. We have to hold people accountable and push you guys out. Or we're going to feel it with sanctions because people cut the U.S. dollar, or we're going to feel it if Americans decide to travel over country in another area, and people are like, we don't want you here because you're American, and they block our passport and send us back home. It's going to be the innocent people to suffer because of our elected officials. And I believe that we shouldn't have to suffer because we didn't support it. So we don't need to put these people back into office. We need to keep the focus on repairing our relationships and taking accountability. And so if they don't get held accountable, it's going to be the future generations that are held accountable.
Wouldn't you say, too, that it's fair to say that citizens are also just as responsible for keeping in this line of complacency where they continue to vote for these politicians over and over and over again?
Yes, I would say that. And the reason being, now the information's out there. So yes, 100%. Because back then, even I was so warped with focusing
me too.
on. Yeah, we all made the mistake. We didn't know. Nobody ever sat down and said, Christina, this is what's happening. This is what's going on. Don't vote for them. No one ever said that. all I knew about, I knew there was something happening in Palestine, but all I knew at that time was, why are we funding them for an Iron Dome, and what is an Iron Dome? I never even knew what an Iron Dome was until I started researching that. So I'm just like, okay, whatever with that. And then I made the mistake, and then when I researched it, I'm like, okay, so once the education's out there, and this is another phrase that I like to share with people, once it's different if you don't know anything, but once you know and you're educated, your ignorance becomes a choice.
Yes.
At a certain point. So once you have the education and you choose to be blind and ignorant, that's on you and that's your responsibility. And if you didn't know, then you didn't know, but now we're educating you. So now you know.
Do you think that this conflict in Gaza has opened anybody's eyes up to this?
Yes. And we're seeing again large protests, multiple issues going on. And it also opened up our eyes in what's happening in Congo, what's happening in Sudan, what's happening in Afghanistan. It opened our eyes on how the U.S. has played a major role in tormenting people in the Middle East and destroying lives. It has also opened my eyes when it comes to these environmentalist organizations that say, oh, don't use plastic bags, but they're going to turn the other way when the military industrial complex is poisoning all the waters, when their corporations are poisoning all the waters, when they're destroying olive branches, olive trees, using phosphorus gas to destroy the soil. And that's going to take years, decades even, to clean that up. And you're saying that that's not a problem, but me using a plastic bag is a problem. I'm not telling people to litter. Don't do that, guys. But I'm just doing it as a comparison. You're saying me driving my car to work with gas is a problem, but them using gas to destroy the planet is not a problem. So where it opened my eyes to that as well. And people aren't, and now more people are aware, because when I talk to these environmentalist organizations, I'll ask, well, why aren't you speaking about any of these genocides or wars currently going on? Why are you only asking me to make sacrifices, but the U.S. government is not allowed to? Why is it they get a pass, but you want me to get an electric car, which is like 5 times more than what I can afford, because electric cars are not cheap in any way, shape, or form. And then I have a nice used car that I can use. Why is that a problem? And then I have to be responsible to fixing up what the U.S. does to the environment when I'm already playing my role in it. You have to have them play their role in it. I do recycle. I do make sure I'm not using a lot of water, but you can't keep asking me to give, and then take from me, and you're not going to give me a brand new electric car. You want me to pay like $60,000 for an electric car? I can't afford that. Like, I have a $15,000 car. I could afford that. And then you're going to make the interest rate so high. So it's like, it opened my eyes to a lot of things, the hypocrisy. So it's like, it also made me reduce funding and donations to all these organizations, because now I'm following the money. I'm going to donate to real people with real solutions, just like they're donating to me. I'm going to donate to people that actually put their energy and time and actually making changes and calling out the corruption and people that aren't hypocrites, instead of them just taking my money, because I don't know what you guys are doing with it, because clearly you're not doing a good job with it, and you guys make $1 million a year in donations, or $2 million a year in donations, and you guys can't even say to the U.S. government, stop destroying the planet with that.
Well, now Biden's infrastructure bill has been touted as this Green New Deal. I like to tell people that all of the solutions in there are not really solutions.
Oh, I agree.
They're just problems. Can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
So the Dems actually took the Green New Deal from the Green Party.
Green Party, yes.
Yes. So, but we have an ethical Green New Deal that we share with people. Biden, the Democrats took our Green New Deal and they actually manipulated it where fossil fuel is considered a renewable energy resource. And that is where everything is leading to, because there's a huge oil reserve in Palestine that they don't want the Palestinians to get the money. They want the U.S. to have the money, and they're doing this the war, like this entire genocide, horrendous things just for fossil fuel. But not only that their Green New Deal that they manipulated is also leading to child slavery, is also leading to oppression within different countries where we're paying their leaders to go in with guns and terrorize their own people. It's leading to people going missing. So it's not an ethical Green New Deal in any way, shape, or form. It's the fossil fuels still having power because they still said that their Green New Deal, fossil fuel is considered a renewable energy resource. And it's just like, at what point is enough? And so that's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah. Well, and also they're not real solutions.
No, they're not. It's the same thing that they've been doing. They just we have people saying, "Oh, Biden's a progressive," or "Murphy's a progressive," or "Andy can't." They're just putting a label on it, but nothing's changed.
Yeah. This whole idea that Biden's been the most progressive president in history makes me sick.
I know. And then when they compared him, I'm like, to FDR, I'm like, FDR is rolling in his grave. He would have had a heart attack with everything. Are you kidding me? He's no FDR. You're making him another Reagan and another Nixon. Like he's not an FDR in any way, shape, or form.
What are some of the I just want to get to this in the last 20 minutes or so. What are some of your specific positions in your campaign? Because I really want people, if you live in New Jersey, I want you to vote for Christina Khalil. And if we can put up your website again, I think we have that banner. That would be
and if great. It doesn't, I'll type it up. But my website's KhalilForSenate.com.
There we go.
Yes. And I'm fighting for universal health care, ending the education debt and free education. I'm fighting for an ethical Green New Deal. I'm fighting to develop better international relationships. So a lot of my policies are common sense and very, very, very progressive. And I do have one tab up on my website that actually explains how we're going to pay for it. And essentially we're going to be lowering taxes at the same time that we're going to be implementing these policies. And I don't have it on my website yet, but I do have like a 5 and 10-year plan for these things to happen, because the U.S. Senate is 6 years per election seat. I'm only going to do two election cycles. So I'm only going to be in for 12 years, but I'll start inspiring and training people to replace me, because I also don't believe that it needs to be a lifelong career. I think that we do need term limits, and Senate, U.S. Senate being 6 years, 2 of those 6 years, like give me 12 years. And I think that's a full career. That's it. I don't need to be a U.S. Senator anymore after that. And I can help, and I can go back being hopefully not an activist where I'm out there every single day, but I can go back and I can, mentor and guide the future politicians, because we need to also, as we have elected officials in office where it's a close-knit, tight circle where they think they're better than everyone else, we do need people out there to be mentors. Okay, I'm in office. I have to start training the new generation. This is how we do it. This is, you have to say no. Here's the boundaries, and this is how things are supposed to be done. This is how you write a policy. You have to inspire, and you have to be a leader. And if anyone's in New Jersey watching this, we are currently collecting signatures to get on the ballot. So if you are interested in assisting us in any way, shape, or form, you can fill out the volunteer form on my website. And we will be in touch with you. We do volunteer meetings every single Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But if you're interested in just phone banking and helping with that, you can phone bank, and that could be virtual from anywhere. It doesn't actually have to be, in New Jersey.
So if you do, even if you don't live in New Jersey, there are things that you can do to help Christine get into office, because this is the path forward, people. Getting a third party elected to challenge this duopoly. Now, again, let's not kid ourselves. Christina is still going to be up against corporate Democrats and Republicans, or essentially just Republicans.
Yes.
Because that's essentially what Democrats are.
Yes.
And it's going to, she's not expecting to be able to pass all of this stuff. This is what she's fighting for. This is what she's working for. And again, we need somebody in there. Now, let me ask you, are there other Green Party, and I'm just asking generic questions here. One of the things I get a lot is, well, there's no other Greens in office. That's not true, is it?
No, we have 140 elected Greens across the entire country. And we do have, I have to, they have the list out because the Green Party has been publishing it to share the list. And I only remember the mayor and PA because PA is right next door to me. And then we did actually have an assembly person in New Jersey a few years ago. That was Green Party. They got pushed out because they didn't support the corporate Dems, aka Republican policies. But Green Party has a shot. We're on the ballots. And in New Jersey, it's not just me on the ballot in 2024. It's going to be a complete Green 13. There's going to be 12 congressional candidates in every single district in New Jersey running.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, under the same policies. So we have an entire team of people, and everybody is out and about, and everyone's hungry for change. So in New Jersey, you can have an entire slate. They're going to put us at the end of the ballot line because New Jersey has a ballot line. They have a column A, a column B, a column C, a column D, and a column E. We'll probably be on E because they like to manipulate everything. And we just have to stand up against the corruption. And all you have to look for is Christina Khalil on the ballot line, and then you know to vote for everyone straight down. And the only reason I'm saying straight down is because everyone in the Green Party, I have had meetings with them, and everyone supports my policies, and my policies are what we're running under. So whether the vote's for me or for someone in your congressional district, you know the policies we are supporting, which is on my website, and I do have more to put up there.
Now, the problem that the Green Party has is both the Democrats and the Republican Party working together like to block access to the ballot for Green Party candidates or independents or anybody that's not them, essentially. What are some ways that we can overcome this? I mean, people have to get involved.
Yes.
But what are some of the ways things that we can do, we the people, to get other parties on the ballot?
So for New Jersey, we have to collect 1,600 signatures. We do not think that I think that the Dems will, but some people don't think that the Dems will, just in the state of New Jersey, because I think they're going to challenge us and try and push us off the ballot. Some people are like, the Dems will look so pathetic and really bad if they try that.
They don't care. They don't care.
Yeah. But I do encourage people, social media sharing. That helps. Word of mouth helps. Calling your local news stations, telling them you want to see your candidate get interviewed. Putting pressure on the news stations. If multiple people are telling like News 12 New Jersey to go interview a candidate in Green Party, they're going to be forced to interview that candidate in the Green Party. So putting public pressure on there, because the Dems already pushed me out of debates. They told me I have to raise $750,000 in order to debate. And that opens the door for dark money, and I'm not taking dark money. So they're just like, I guess you can't debate with us then in the general election because you're not going to have almost $1 million sitting in your bank account. I'm like, that's wild. That's not democracy. And it shouldn't be about money. It should be about the better candidate. And so just being able to spread all this information, passing it around from people to people, and just actively getting involved. And that is how we make the changes.
What about ranked choice voting? Is that another?
Oh, yes. We in Green Party love ranked choice voting. We have been fighting for it for years, and we just encourage people to fight, because what ranked choice voting does, which is beautiful, is, you pick your first person that you like and your second person and your third person. Who are your top 3 or top 4 or top 5, however many people are on the ballot. And your first person, everyone who picked that first, you have multiple choices. So like if your first person does it again, maybe your second person gets in, or maybe your third person. So they tally up the votes that way. So that gives people more options and more confidence. So then you don't have to feel like you have to force your vote down one path or another. So Green Party has been fighting so hard for ranked choice voting, and we're hoping to get it soon, but that's never going to happen unless we get Green Party into the ballots as well. Into office. So if we get Green Party in office, we're more likely to see ranked choice voting within the state.
And going back to Gaza for just a moment, um, what do you think there are that we can? What are the things that we can do to help what's going on and help Palestinians?
Right now, protests, calling your elected officials, but also what I'm seeing when it comes to people with, like, a lot of say, start saying who you're going to vote for on top of that. Like, keep doing what you're doing, but say, I'm replacing my vote with you with this new candidate. Now, this you're going to, whoever you like, do your research and say, this is the candidate I support. So that way they know, because what they think and what they believe and what we've done is we've never really held anyone accountable, and we continue to keep the same people in office.
Yeah.
Now you're not only just doing protests and everything, you're sharing and you're voting and you're saying, my vote's now going to do this. I'm still going to call you and tell you I'm replacing you if you don't do this. I'm going to be voting for Joe Schmo in the general election and this and even congressional, because a lot of people are just like, with the uncommitted votes is just for Biden. But you need to also realize it's down the line too. And you're got to tell, like, your congressman and your senator and your congresswoman and your assembly person, I'm not voting for you anymore because of this. So if you want my vote, I'm going to be voting for Jessica in the 2nd district and blah, blah, blah. And that's who I'm going to be volunteering for. They're going to get those messages. And the more people that they call up and they're seeing, oh, wow, not only am I getting a call about stopping this, but in the voice message and in the message as well, I'm being told your vote is going to, this is my replacement. That's going to start, because they have egos, that's going to hurt their egos and that's going to hurt their feelings. And they're going to be like, well, I got to start doing something. So I think also telling people who you're going to be replacing them with is going to be helping too. So we could always add it another layer. And then I always encourage people, because they have a database, I encourage people to unregister and become uncommitted from the duopoly, become an unregistered voter after the primaries, because I know it's state by state, but after the primaries, become unregistered, because then in the general you can vote for whoever you want. But you're going to see more people leaving their party. So those are 2 new forms of protest that we can add on top of the protest, which I think is going to send another wonderful message. And you guys do not have to switch green. You could just say, I'm unregistered. I'm unregistering from all parties until I have someone that represents my values.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, anything that we can do, protests are highly important. Do you know of any websites or resources where people can go to find a list of protests that they can attend for Palestine or other issues?
I'm going to have to email that to you.
Okay, email it to me and we'll put that in the show notes if possible.
Yeah, because there is a website that I use. I just forgot the name of it off the top of my head.
You're getting my COVID brain fog.
Yeah, it's coming through the transmission. I'm just like, I know I use it, and I can't remember if it's just for New Jersey or if it's across the entire country. But they update because the mainstream media is pushing Fight Back Better is one great place, but they are New Jersey based. I'll send you the other website. But Fight Back Better New Jersey is this news source that is all progressive and for Palestine, and he posts up everything, even things you're like, wow, I didn't know this happened, or I didn't know this was going to happen. He posts up everything. So it's Fight Back Better, and I'll send that link to you as well.
Perfect. And again, just go to Google, search Palestine protests near me, and hopefully you'll find stuff that way.
That's actually how I found these websites.
Oh, perfect.
So that would actually help.
And I hate to just mention Google. Any search engine will do.
You can use Bing or something else.
Yeah, something that's not as evil. Now, I believe that we have a video that we're going to close out with. Can you tell us a little bit about the video?
So the video is a local artist actually put together a song for the campaign, because he was actually very inspired by my fight, my drive, and my progressive values. And he really liked that I didn't back down, and I'm always challenging the establishment, including the fake progressives that I face. So it was really nice that he put this together. It's a very catchy song.
Well, we're going to go ahead and close out with it. I want to thank you so much for joining us again, coming back on the show. I hope you'll come back again later.
Will do. Anytime you need me, I'm there for you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Christina. And let's take a look at your campaign video.
Thank you.
No more taming topics. Let's all change the logic. No more games, things been the same. Ain't do nothing about it. It seems kinda toxic. Now it's time we shout it. Came from nothing to something. Nobody can tell me nothing. No reason to come here fronting. Time for somebody trusting. And I can't lie, and I can't try to even play no games. We know why inflation high and the currency's a shame. We pay taxes, but where does it go? Security gauge, far from the low. Homeless team vets on the streets and it shows. Poverty to robberies, that's how it goes. Constantly, commonly, property forming the cities where pockets are taking a blow. Honestly, consciously, we can continue this flow. It's time for a change for you know. Yeah, we got it, we bout it. We came to change the optic. No more taming topics. Let's all change the logic. No more games, things been the same. Ain't do nothing about it. It seems kinda toxic. Now it's time we shout it. It's time we see more. No more detours. But we need more. CK24. It's time we see more. No more detours. But we need more. CK24. Let's go. Fighting the man with plans. Knowing they don't give a damn. Policies full of sham. We understand the scam. It's time for all these scammers to scram. And we make an advance. All we need is a chance to break from the trance. We from the garden, I beg your pardon. Squadron deep like Spartans. No time to hearken. You're watching big dogs over here. We barking. Parallel to the streets we parking. Chance behind the doors we knocking. Keep shocking while they keep mocking. History with y'all embarking. Got it, we bout it. We came to change the optic. No more taming topics. Let's all change the logic. No more games, things been the same. Ain't do nothing about it. It seems kinda toxic. Now it's time we shout it. It's time we see more. No more detours. But we need more. CK24. It's time we see more. No more detours. But we need more. CK24. Let's go.